So take a moment to pause throughout the video to read through any of these answered questions. But the main idea is to be able to distinguish between functions and not functions. So, for examples on all over, these are all relations, but on the left are examples of functions. You see that for every input, there is a unique output. So one input has one output. There are situations where you may have two different inputs that gets you the same output, and that's okay. Such as here. If you rewrite this as a table of values, for -2, you get a 4. For 2 as an input, you get a 4 as the output. That's okay, because that's like if you have a parabola. So at 0, I get 3, and at x equals 2, I get y equals 3, and that's okay. So those are all on the left are examples of functions. But on the right, these are not functions. So the problem is that one input has two outputs. So when I have an input of x equals 1, I have two different outputs at 2 and -4. So for the student number 1, they have two quiz values, 50 and 70. And that's a problem. And for x squared plus y squared equals 25, well, what happens is when you isolate for y, you get a plus and minus every time you take a square root. Okay, and so because of that reason, anytime you have an even exponent on the y, algebraically, you have a situation where it's not a function because you have the plus and minus component. There are two parts to it. So on a review on why you get a plus and minus version is because if, let's say, you take the square root of 9, the answer to that is a 3, right? What number that when it is multiplied by itself gets you the 9? Well, it's a 3. But a -3 also is an answer. -3 times -3 also equals 9. So watch out for those even exponents on the y. Those are not functions. So when you have this situation, y equals plus minus square root x, well, if you write it like that, that is not a function. You may be able to write it separately, like y equals plus square root x and y equals square root x. To fix that problem. All right, so generally when you're given the graph, you want to check, does the graph pass the vertical line test? Meaning, when you draw a vertical line, so a line going up and down on the graph, does it hit more than once? If it touches more than once, it means that there are more than one outputs, and you do not want that. And so those are examples of it being not a function. So these are some pointers. So it says equations of functions should not have an even power on the y, since isolating y squared gives a positive square root and negative square root. If the graph touches any vertical line more than once anywhere, the graph is not a function. So situations here. So the three graphs, A, B, C, you do a vertical line test on it, and you see that for A and B, they do not pass the vertical line test. For D, it's fine. There are 4 unique coordinates. For E, you notice that for the same input -2, you get 2 different outputs. That's a problem. That is not a function. For F, you have y to the exponent on odd exponent, and so that's fine. That's a line. Yes, that is a function. For G, that's fine. Y is by itself. It's just a polynomial, and so yes, it is a function. For H, again, you see a situation where it's y squared. When you try to isolate for that y, you're going to get square root plus minus. So because of that, no, it is not a function. I, yes, it is a function because that's really saying y equals 1 over x, according to exponent law. J, no, it is not a function because you have an even exponent on the y. K, so if you have a relationship between age and length, well, if someone is 15, doesn't mean they have the same foot length. You're going to have all sorts of foot length at age 15, and so no, that is not a function. L, if you have a street address, yeah, you're going to get a postal code for it, one postal code for it. And for M, well, meanwhile, if you're given the postal code, you're going to get multiple street addresses. You're going to have multiple street addresses because the apartments and houses in the area will have very similar postal codes. For N, yes, if you press one button, you're going to get one unique output, a pop, a gum, chocolate bar. Oh, well, you notice that there are 2 scores for Ali. That is not a function. For question 6, okay, question 6, all functions are still a relationship between a variable. Yes, all functions are relationships. There are relations, that's true. 7, all relations are functions. No. Well, if you have x squared plus y squared equals 25, that's an equation of a circle. Again, you see an even exponent on the y, and if you were to draw it out, you would have an equation of a circle, wouldn't pass the vertical line test, so false, it is not a function.